What's up, guys? Thanks for watching Action Figures. I'm Richard Allen. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing one of my favorite all-time fighters, a guy that never failed to put on an exciting fight. We're going to talk about where he's been, where he's going, and what's on the plate for him next. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gray Maynard.
How you doing?
How are you, brother? Thanks for taking time to hang out with us. I appreciate you. Awesome. So, like always, we'll kind of touch on some of the things that kind of got you to where you're at, and then we'll just dive into it. So, feel free to elaborate at any point. But you were born in Phoenix, right?
Born in Phoenix, yeah.
And then I guess at a young age, your parents moved to Las Vegas. Is that right?
No.
Or did they move to Ohio?
Yeah, we moved all over the place. My dad, he was a two-time state champ in Ohio, so he had a lot of roots there.
Nice.
And you know, a lot of aunts and uncles still there. He grew up with 9 kids.
Wow.
But yeah, we ended up moving to Tennessee, Ohio, Tennessee, and then we came out here when I was about 12. He owned bars. He would flip bars. He kind of get you know, a dive bar, try to get it, you know, popping again, and then flip it. So we lived a pretty cool life as far as like moving all over the place, and you know, new schools, and you know, a lot of people kind of look at that as oh, it was hard. You know, I had to make new friends, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And you know, it was good for me because it definitely wasn't easy as far as his career.
Yeah.
You know, there was ups and downs all over the place, and you know, we didn't really grow up in a steady income, you know, type deal. It was like feast or you're starving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, feast or famine. And but yeah, we had a good time. We're all close.
That's awesome.
You know, my dad passed away in March, but
of this year?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
that's a bummer. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah. So you know, it was a lot of those times like kind of made me who I was. You know.
Yeah. The after that trip, you guys got to Vegas, but you went to high school here at a couple of local schools, and then you bailed out and you went back to Cleveland, right?
Yes. So
for wrestling.
We moved here when I was like 6th grade, and then 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, but around 8th grade, you know, I always was a wrestler. You know, I always I played other sports, but I was always kind of like a wrestler. I knew I was going to be good, and those were my like heroes, and you know, icons, and around 8th grade is when it kind of hit like really hard. You know, I wanted to do everything, 7th or 8th grade, and you know, I just wanted to wrestle. You know, and
was that because you wanted to do it, you enjoyed it, or did you naturally find yourself accelerating in wrestling, becoming better and better naturally?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Gotcha.
You know, I was just good at it, but also like I loved that mentality that I hold the key to success, right? It's not my team, it's not anybody else. I hold that key. And that's why I like wrestling, especially for kids. I think every kid should wrestle, you know, because once you start understanding in this world, like the work you put in is the work you're gonna get out, you know, is what you get in. What you put in is what you get out. And you know, we don't have a concept of that at times. A lot of people don't really get that. You know, there's going to be tough times when you're putting that work in, when nobody's looking or whatever it is, and that's where champions are made, is not in the octagon, not on the big stage mat, you know, at the NCAA championships. It's the hours that nobody's around. You know, and that's why it kind of pulled me in, you know, a little bit more. You know, I happened to watch a guy named, 2 guys, they're twin brothers, Tom and Terry Brands, and they were just these Iowa guys that just, you know, they made a match as physical and as possible, like with the opponent. They just scared everybody. Like everybody was scared to go up against them because they were in shape. They were hard to wrestle. Like they were physical. They were strong, prepared. And I looked at that and I was like, man, that's awesome, because they're not like, they were never great athletes, and they were never really like these athletes, like slick and smooth, and they were just these kind of strong, bullheaded, you know, like wrestlers that just made it miserable for their opponents. And I saw that, you know, at a young age, and I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So then I got into 9th grade, you know, had some ups and downs, just getting into high school.
Yeah.
You know, and then 10th grade, I transferred to another school here, because his brother coached at a school, Calvary Chapel, which was a good school in California, that was probably top 5 in the nation. And it was pretty close to where, you know, I could transfer there and could go there, you know, possibly. So I transferred there, you know, and my dad, he made a bet. He's like, look, if your grades are good, you run through all the opponents, then yeah, we'll talk about getting you to a good school. And you know, I ended up like not getting any. Nobody took me down that year. You know, I jumped up. I beat the 145-pound state champ.
How old were you at this point?
10th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it really, you know, it gave me a goal, you know, to work that much harder, to get out and to just put it all on the line, you know, if I was going to do this.
You know what I like about that, and I didn't know that about you, even, and I tried to do a lot of extensive research. I didn't know this. I didn't know that about you, but I understand now, in you know, as we're speaking, your dad wrestled, so it wasn't like he was just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
He knew that, you know, if you do this, this, and this, then we'll talk about getting you to a good school. So he ultimately knew what to look for also.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wow, what an advantage that probably provided for you, though, to have somebody there to
know
whether or not, you know, because no parent wants to throw their kids to the wolves, you know, so he understood what was happening there. That's brilliant.
He did understand, and you know, like.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious how big of an influence your pops was on you, man. I think that's awesome, because there's so many people who don't get that. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about, you know, you went to, you know, you made it out to Ohio, and you did well. And is that what led to you landing at Michigan State University?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so to touch on it again, you know, he wasn't, you know, a guy that was here in the room pushing me. It was more of like teaching me to love the sport.
For sure.
You know, and that helped out a lot.
Awesome.
You know, and he was a big guy that, you know, you got to chase your dreams.
Yeah.
So, like, I threw all my stuff in the garbage bag. We ended up not going to Calvary Chapel just because we had aunts and uncles like in Cleveland, and we knew what to expect out there.
Right.
Great wrestling.
For sure.
You know, and just threw all my stuff in a garbage bag and drove across country in an '88 Subaru. You know.
Were you scared or were you excited?
I think excitement was happening while I was driving, but then once I got there, it really dawned on me, like, I'm never gonna live with my parents again. I'm never gonna, like, you start going through that, like, that brain.
Yeah.
And you know, you just you get there and it kind of hits you like, whoa, you know, I'm out of the house, and
you were an adult at a young age. It's pretty hairy.
Yes. So everybody was awesome up there. Like, I couldn't ask for a better program to choose, a better family like atmosphere to choose. So I lucked out in that part. Everybody took me in, and I would jump around houses. I was a little bit of a nomad, but I loved it.
And you were on a mission.
Yeah, exactly. And had great coaches that coached way beyond just wrestling. It was more, how to be a good person. How to work hard, how to get. I mean, it's the best program probably in the history of, I'd say, high school.
Nice.
Like wrestling.
Yeah.
It really is. Like the amount of All-Americans that have come through there, like for the past, I don't know, there's a statistic, for the past 33 years, there's been an All-American every year, like in the NCAAs,
I didn't even know
out
that.
of St. Ed's. Yeah, it was crazy.
That is amazing.
So it was really a great program, and it got me prepared for college, and that's kind of how I chose to go to Michigan State. A coach got a job up there as the assistant coach. He went to Ed's. He went to St. Ed's as well. So that's kind of what drove me that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then when you got there, you roomed with Rashad Evans, right?
Rashad Evans, he wasn't there when I got there because he was in junior college.
Oh, okay.
So it was a couple years, but then when like after he got there, we kind of clicked pretty good, and then we would be kind of roommates, throughout traveling, and yeah, he
Was he heavyweight then?
No, he was actually 174.
No kidding.
Yeah, he cut a lot of weight.
Because he won tough at heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
And then cut to light heavy?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Wow.
He was a 174 pounder
That's
in college.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys
he
still
was
tight?
good. Yeah, we still talk.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I always admired what you were doing in the early days. I mean, obviously this would be after college because the Ultimate Fighting was still kind of I won't say brand new, but relatively new sport. How did you find yourself kind of gravitating towards this sport? Was it because of BJ Penn, or was it?
Yeah, so I came back home. I was trying out for the Olympic team in 2004. I moved down to Arizona, and I wanted to try it. I was kind of caught between weights because at that time they dropped a weight class, and it was either I drop down to 145 or go up to 163, which it was either too small or too big.
What's your walk around weight?
65-ish.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some big boys
For sure.
as 63.
Yeah.
Joe Williams, he was on the Olympic team. But I did that for a couple years just because I still had the itch to compete and train, and didn't quite accomplish all my goals in college. So just that was kind of how I could keep going.
For sure.
And then that's a tough road. The Olympics, my hat's off to whoever does that. And it's a tough road, and
is it just because it's very the training is rigorous, or the selection process?
The training, there's no selection process. You have to win.
I see.
There's qualifying tournaments, and the training is training. I mean, like I feel if we all could go in it and get paid however much and train, it might even be a different it might be a different team each year.
Sure.
Just because that's the hard part, is getting that spot of like, you're making money, you can train, you can concentrate on trying out for the team, you can you can do all that, and that's where it was tough. Is like I still had to work and train, and I just didn't see how I was gonna do it,
Gotcha.
and just make it all come together.
Yeah.
So I came back home and ended up getting in real estate and training at gyms, just to keep going.
Yeah.
There was a couple jiu-jitsu gyms. There was a Cobra Kai gym.
I
here
remember.
where it was like Kendall Grove, Troy Mandalones, Baroni, Jay Huron, Jason Mayhem Miller, like there was a ton of guys, who hadn't made it yet.
Yeah.
Brony did, but got in there, just rolled around with them, and they're like, man, you're a good wrestler. And I ended up getting a call from BJ Penn to come down to help him train for, he was going up against a Gracie in Japan. And, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't know who he was because I hadn't really kept up on the sport too much.
It was pretty new back then too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember watching like a Matt Hughes fight, and we were all supposed to go out afterwards, and everybody's like, hey, why can't you do this? You should do this, because Hughes, he was killing it. And I remember comparing our stats, like, oh yeah, I was a 3-time All-American, he was a 2-time All-American. I think I could do that, blah, blah, blah. And then we were drinking that night, like later on, and I just couldn't drink. I couldn't. Like, I was like, is that what my life is gonna be? I'm just gonna like be a Barstool hero and talk about how I could have done this?
Wow.
Yes, because
I
remember.
How old were you?
Oh, I was out of college and everything because
but that's still kind of prime time, party time for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and you had this self-awareness to say, I want something more.
Yeah, it was crazy. I forgot who he fought, but we were hanging out in my buddy's house. And I remember just that night, I just couldn't drink. And I was like, this is not who I want to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a talker. I don't want to be a talker.
God, that's awesome.
And
I got
chills.
chills.
I was doing great in real estate. I was making money, and that's kind of when I chose, to kind of quit and pursue, pursue a different career.
Yeah.
And my boss at the time, he owned a real estate company, and he helped me out a lot growing up in wrestling, and I kind of asked him, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I still have it, I still have competition in me. He's like, hey man, this will always be here. Go chase your dream.
Fantastic.
And that's kind of how it started. I flew down to BJ Penn's, and that's where I caught the bug of MMA.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this stuff's pretty cool. You can take a person down and you can punch him, and it really reminded me of wrestling, because what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a gambler, but best bet is always you, right? Because you can control that bet.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that a lot. You're always best off betting on yourself.
Yeah.
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 I think that was exceptional that you had, first of all, you had your a large extended family, in Ohio and in Vegas, and they supported you.
Yeah.
And then you had this kind of a guy who was working, it's kind of in the form of a mentor, saying, go do it, go support.
Yeah.
I think that is something that we don't get enough of. People around us pushing us up. You know, normally it's people around you trying to pull you down.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be critical for you. Somebody who's saying, "You can do this, man. Make it happen."
Yeah. I mean, you know, I just heard a quote like the other day. It's like, dream big, because if you get there, you know, if you reach your goals, you know, and you get them, you don't want to say like, why didn't I dream bigger? You know?
Good.
So it was always important to try to put these, what people call like unrealistic goals, and to do something out of the normal, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean,
agreed.
people are like, what the are you
Yeah.
doing? You're
Yeah.
quitting a job that you're making great money, like, to do this?
Yeah.
And, you know, even my dad was a little perplexed. He was perplexed as well. So, you know, I'm fortunate that I had good people in my life to push you to do better.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of gain for you to do, like, to push you to do better, you know. And with wrestling, I think that's where you get that, you know. That's where I got that,
For sure.
You know, a lot of it came through the sport, you know, whether it's coaches, whether it's people that did their career, got out of their career, and just applied their wrestling drive to a career, to a new career, you know, and killed it.
Mm-hmm. When you got into MMA and started doing those practices and drills as a wrestler, was your striking, did it need work? Because I was always impressed with your striking was always quick and it was powerful. And no disrespect to anybody, because you know, I'm not getting in an octagon with anybody anytime soon. But it seems like most wrestlers kind of struggle with the striking element. And you didn't seem, that was something you didn't seem to have to overcome.
Yeah. So at the beginning I did, you know, I got back from BJ Penn's, and one of my buddies he wrestled with Couture on the Greco team.
Gotcha.
He actually got me in with Couture because Couture just moved down here, and there was like Jay Huron, Pyle, Forrest Griffin, Couture, like a smaller group helping out, you know, trying to get him prepared. And so I remember coming in and had no striking, and you know, I'm sparring like Randy Couture, I'm sparring Forrest Griffin, and it was just it was eye-opening, like, oh my God, I got a lot to learn.
Because Randy won at heavyweight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big guy.
And that's how it was, man. I just literally got thrown into these practices, and there was no real, like, classes or coaches. It was just pro training. And, you know, I had my wrestling, but, you know, I didn't have any striking. And then, you know, I got a little bit, you know, and then I had an amateur fight, and then a pro fight, and then I got on the TV show. And
The Ultimate Fighter.
Yep. And then, you know, I still felt like my striking wasn't there yet. And then, you know, I ended up getting with a good boxing coach, and I just immersed myself, I just immersed myself into boxing. You know, because, you know, I narrowed it down a little bit, and we have tons of great gyms here. We got great boxers. And, you know, I felt as if I rule out the knees and the kicks, just concentrate on boxing. Like right now, you know, it'll help me more. There'll be more, you know, it'll pay off more. And that's really what I did was I bought every DVD, because growing up, you always like boxing,
Right.
but you don't look at it like that, right?
Yeah, from
You
the
don't
analytical perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look at it as like a fan, and you think you can like analyze it, and,
Right.
but really getting punched and getting kind of beat up, you start to understand like, wow, there's so much more to this. And then once you start like sparring a good boxer, like it was crazy. These little guys that weighed hardly anything had these snappy punches, hard punches. You couldn't hit them. And, you know, I understood why they call it the sweet science.
Yeah.
And why it's at the point it is, because it's had hundreds of years of like growth and kind of understanding what works and what doesn't. And so I jumped into that, and I bought every DVD I could buy,
Right.
you know, and I just analyzed it night after night after night. Just go home, you know, I'd jump in the boxing gym, and you know, I was getting beat up by teenagers, you know, but I didn't care because I knew I was getting better. I knew I was getting better. And just doing boring drills, you know, but I knew I was getting better. And, you know, again, it's just keeping that in your mind, like, if this shit is easy, everybody would do it.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
If it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's everything that's good in life.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
if it's easy, everybody would have that.
That's right.
You know, so, you know, there's days when you just want to quit, you want to take days off, and it just drives you, because, you know, you have your dreams and goals, and you want to achieve those.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think about this a lot in the world that we live in. We live in a very comfortable world now.
Yeah.
I mean, not to downplay some of the things that have taken place in our certainly in our country recently, but for the most part,
Right.
it's a relatively safe place, the world. We live comfortable lives, you know, compared to, you know, what we've had to deal with in the past. But there's still places in the world, like there's a gazelle right now
Yeah.
getting its, you know, being eaten alive by tigers or hyenas or something in front of its babies. And we see that on TV and we say, oh, that's tragic, that's the wild, that's
Yeah.
But it's still an element that exists on our planet today and shows you how dangerous for some species it still can be. So for you to say that and to really put that in perspective, I think it's important, because fear is very real. I mean, we have a record number of people on this planet dealing with anxiety, and we live in the most comfortable maybe part of human history, arguably. You know, there's downsides, I'm not taking away from that, but it's still fascinating to hear that people have to deal with fear, and it's real and it's relevant. And to be able to do what you were doing, you had to overcome that, even at a young age. I mean, you just got out of college. Let's face it, our brains aren't fully baked at that age. You know, we don't have the experience and perspective. You know, and so for you to do that, I you know, tip of the hat, because it's not easy. And then you go from there and you march right into the Ultimate Fighter. Was that like out of the frying pan into the fire for you? Did you feel, were you confident? Were you lost? Were you like, I don't know what's going on here? What was that like?
So as far as like fear, we always have that fear, like, you know, especially growing up in a household where you didn't know if you're gonna have a house this next month, or you're gonna be wherever. And so, like at a younger age, I think you have to just throw yourself in it, because it's hard to have that concept of fear and why I have this fear. But, you know, with me, it was just being young, like at the time, but overcoming stuff without even knowing you're overcoming it, and taking chances without knowing you're taking chances.
Makes sense.
You know, like I got a 2.5-year-old boy, and I'm like, climb. Climb. Figure this out, kid. Like, and,
you're gonna get some bumps and bruises, but figure it out.
Like, figure out how to get up. That's, you know, that's a lot easier, right? And then he looks at me once he's up there, help down? And I'm like, no, figure this out, buddy.
Yeah.
We got this.
That's awesome.
So at a young age, I don't think you're aware of like fear and what it is mentally and physically.
That
but
makes sense.
As you grow up, you start understanding. You talk to me now, and it's like fear is only the future. Yeah. Like we put that on ourselves because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no lions attacking us,
Right,
just like
yeah.
you said. Like, yeah, there's times when it is like fear and adrenaline that's happening right at that moment, but you start understanding that you're putting this on yourself, the fear.
Yeah.
Right? And
that is so good, bro.
Yeah,
that's so good.
That's why I really came up with this. Preparations builds confidence, and confidence kind of overrides fear.
Yeah.
So if you know what you've done and you can check off those small boxes, in your head, it really makes it a lot easier to step into a cage.
Mm-hmm.
And like reporters, do you get scared when you go into the cage? You get scared. And, I tell them preparation builds confidence. And when I'm going into the cage and I know I've prepared, everybody has butterflies, everybody has all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's just normal human. Yeah, because you put a lot of work into it. You can't control the outcome. And, but when I can't check those boxes off, that's when fear comes, because now there's question marks. So if you have question marks, that's the fear, right?
Fear could be a question. That's deep.
Yeah. And so you start asking yourself while you're warming up, man, did I train hard enough? Did I put in enough cardio? Is my cardio there? That's fear. That's that little voice that you gave him that voice by not checking off that list, not doing enough to check off that list when the time comes.
Yeah.
So, and that's what wrestling always taught me was, hey, if you prepare enough, you're going to walk on that mat confident and ready to go.
Yeah.
And then win, lose, or draw, you can walk off the mat content.
Yeah.
Maybe not happy because you lost.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But losing with questions like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this? I could have trained harder.
Yeah.
That's going to eat you up.
Yeah. That's where regret comes from.
Yeah. But if you know that you came off that mat, hey, I gave it all. I trained hard. You came off, and now it's just like you got to go back and kind of adjust stuff. That's not hard. Mm-hmm. But when it's questions of like, I could have done more. I could have done this. I could have done that. It makes it a broader scope of like what to change. And then you got to factor in like, well, like mentally, like what do I change?
Yeah.
So it just makes stuff harder on yourself when you don't check all those boxes.
I got you.
Emotionally, physically, everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
I that helps. I mean, looking back on kind of how you stormed out of the Ultimate Fighter house and got a contract. Yeah. Not stormed out like mad, just like you did well. Yeah. You came out of there. Before that, I don't think anybody really knew who you were or anything. I mean, you were new, and that was the Ultimate Fighter 5, so it was still relatively young format as well. Yeah. You came out. You started marching through the weight class that you were in. Was 155? Yeah. Yeah, 155. 155. And eventually wind up fighting, guys like Frankie Edgar. And one thing I always noticed about you is, I'm fascinated by guys who have killer cardio. Yeah. Because even if you're the hardest puncher or you have the best head kicks or the best jiu-jitsu, without the element of cardio, it's really not going to matter. You're eventually going to wear out and your opponent's going to have an advantage over you. I was always wildly impressed with your cardio. Yeah. And even Frankie Edgar said that too. Like your gas tank is never ending. Yeah. Did that start early from wrestling? Was your heart just conditioned to pump blood? Yeah. I mean, where'd that come from?
I think that's more of what wrestling taught me as it's more mental than anything. Everybody really feels like, why does he have better cardio? Why, or what physically does he have? And there's guys that are physically maybe capable of, pumping more blood, to the muscles or whatever it is. But in wrestling, you really learn when you're hurting, because there's no way around it. If you work hard in a match, practice, a fight, the octagon, whatever it is, if you're working hard, there's no way around getting tired. You are tired.
Yeah.
Like, listen to me, you are tired. So it's not that I had great cardio. I was dead. I was tired. I remember going back after round 1 with Edgar.
In the first fight?
The second one,
okay,
to where it was a draw.
Uh-huh.
I just remember going back, and I was like pins and needles all over my body because I blew everything out I could in round 1. Wow. And just going back, like, how am I going to get up off this stool? How am I going to get up off this stool? And that's when the preparation comes, because I know I trained so hard on cardio, because I know he's a cardio guy. And that's when that voice can override another question voice,
yeah,
of like, look, you did everything you needed. Get back up, and keep it going, because if you're tired, he's tired. If you're tired, he's tired. And that's the whole point, is to get yourself to the point that you want to quit, where other people will quit,
Yeah.
And that's the gratitude of taking a person's, their soul.
Yeah.
That's the gratitude of wrestling and MMA is
Yeah.
you can take people's
Yeah.
fucking soul.
Yeah.
And but then you get the dog fights, the people who are just as good, and he was just as good.
Wow.
And that's when beauty happened.
Yeah. It was magical three times. I mean,
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes me so happy to hear you say that, because again, when you take what you learned on the mat or in the octagon or in your coaching sessions, whatever, and you apply that to life, all of a sudden it's like, am I going to quit? And adversities happen. It's all going to happen to all of us. I mean, you lose family members, economy tanks, wars break, whatever it is. Are you going to stop? Are you going to continue to push yourself? When you close your eyes at night and the only voice that you can hear is the one in your head, what are you going to say to yourself to push through? And that's the thing. I'm so happy that you said that, because that's the thing that we are missing. I'm not saying that in our culture we need to be hardened and just everybody's got nails on the outside of their skin, but when tough times come, if you're prepared for it, if you hit all those check boxes, maybe it's an opportunity instead of a setback, And I hope I hope that people that see this and hear it from people that have gone through it, to a high level, can apply that to their lives, man, because it's so important. It's so important.
And another quote, I love that goes through my mind is, tough times don't last. Tough people do.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's just, we put other people up. We put a lot of people up in our head, especially when you're going up against them, like one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
Like wrestling matches. I see 3-year-olds, getting ready for their match, and they're looking across, and they're like, wow, he's got the good shoes, and he's got the nice singlet, and he's got the mohawk or whatever, and I'm like, I think about that, and part of me wants to be like, hey, when they ask me stuff like that, oh, he's got those good shoes or something, and I'm like, hey, don't think about that. But then I put myself back there, and I thought about that, right? But I also, kind of understand that you know, it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
You know, and once you start understanding that, you know, stop taking people, you know, stop putting people on the, like way up here, you know, like on a,
like a pedestal.
exactly. You know, and a lot of people would ask me, you know, who's your heroes? Who are the people that you look up to in MMA? And you know, I told them nobody, just because like I want to beat all those people.
Yeah.
You know, the GSPs.
Right.
And that's when I started to understand that, yeah, you can like what they do and pick stuff off them, but you know, you have to believe that you're the best. You have to believe that. You have to, and if you believe that, what I've also noticed, you know, I'm jumping around here, is like in college, I didn't achieve my dreams. You know, I wanted to be NCAA champ multiple times, and I went into college talking about that. I'm going to be NCAA champ. I'm going to be NCAA champ. I'm going to be NCAA champ. And at the end of it, when I wasn't, you know, I look back on that, like where did it go wrong? And there was a lot of stuff that I can kind of pick out, but ultimately I concentrated too much on the long-term goal instead of concentrating every day, every week, every second, every hour, how to get better, how to get better, how to get better. And that's what I started to apply once I got to MMA, is like, okay, UFC champ, great. That's in the back of my mind. But I need to go to this boxing gym right now, and I need to get my jab better, you know, and have these small goals.
Yeah.
You know, we get too wrapped up in you know, talking about dreams and talking about the goals, instead of talking about what is it gonna take today to get you one step closer to that goal, you know?
Yeah.
And we all think it's just hard work, but it you know, that's a lot of people. A lot of people do hard work. You go in here and everybody's sweating, everybody's training hard, everybody's out of breath. But then you start to mix together with a guy that works hard, but also analyzes his performances, analyzes, you know, and that's what I did. Win, lose, or draw, like I would go back and I would analyze my fight, I would analyze my camp. A lot of people win and it's like, oh yeah, that was awesome. There's nothing, that was perfect.
Yeah.
No, you always gotta break it down. You gotta break down your camp. You gotta check, go through the notes, and you know, it's just taking it one step deeper is just looking back on win, lose, or draw, and how can you get better?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to take care of the long-term goal, is the smaller goals every day, every hour, you know, and you know, it comes back to even in practice.
Yeah.
I can't go one more round. I'm gonna go one more round.
Yeah.
You know, and conquering that.
That ability to dig deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and with wrestling, you do that over and over and over again, and you know, then when that's done, a lot of people get into life and they just apply that to life.
Yeah. I don't want to overshadow your UFC career, but something happened just a few years ago where you got pretty sick.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was viral because if I remember correctly, you said that your wife contracted it as well.
Yeah.
You guys were struggling with,
Yeah.
and I'm only bringing that up because, you know, we're talking about fear and being able to overcome things. I mean, but when you mentioned that your speech was slurred, your motor skills were diminished, you'd drop a glass on the floor or whatever.
Yeah.
Was that freaking you out? I mean, how did you deal with that? Because that's something, you know, we talk about work on the things that you can control.
Yeah.
But when you can't see the enemy that's attacking you almost, what was that like?
So it was weird. You know, me and my wife, we came down with this, and you know, if it was just me, I would have thought it was a little bit kind of neurological, maybe the punching, and you know, I didn't know, because hands were twitching. I couldn't control my hands, but she was going through it as well. And doctors couldn't really give us an answer. And you know, I ended up going to the ER after Jess got better, because right when I got better, we were down and out for about a month, and then I got better.
Had you had your daughter yet?
We already had our daughter,
Okay.
but we had our boy.
Oh, okay.
So he was still a baby.
Wow.
He was still.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was 6 months old. You know, and like we had to come over. We had to have like people come over to help us because we were just out of it. And then when we both got better after about like a month, you know, I jumped into like, I got to work out. You know, I got to get this out of me. But I feel like it might have drove it through my liver more or whatever. Anyways, I end up getting back into the sickness, you know, and then, you know, I went to ER, and they took my blood, and they couldn't tell like what was going on, and they took my blood, and it was like, your liver is like through the roof.
Wow.
Like average, you're probably 0 to 40. Mine was at like 1,500.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy. So, you know, I ended up having to be on bed rest probably for about a month. And it was right at the time when, do you remember Max Holloway?
Yeah.
He was going through that stuff?
Yeah. Same thing?
I think it was exactly at the same time. It was so weird.
Yeah, because he had some speech problems. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's exactly what we were doing.
Wow.
You know, me and my wife. And then I have another coach here who was going through it. The doctor told him it was vertigo, and you're just off balance. And I don't know what it was going around. There's been no answers, you know. And
but you came out of that, okay, right?
I came out of it, and I remember on bed rest, I am not good with like hanging out.
Me either, bro.
I'm not there.
I understand.
So pretty much I'm like ready to get a fight. And so, which wasn't smart because I didn't have the time to prepare. I got out of bed rest probably around September-ish, and end of August, and I fought in October.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not even a 60-day camp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not even. Yeah. It was. And it was basically taking all that time off because of that bed rest. Like no working out, no nothing.
Who was your opponent for that fight?
Nick Lentz.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a bad one.
Yeah. And you've known him for a long time.
Yeah. Yes. It was just one of those ones that, you know, there was definitely a lot of questions going on.
Yeah.
But, you know, I wanted to do it because I felt like, you know, I could overcome this. And, you know, just be prepared to go.
Sure.
And, you know, half the battle was just getting in the octagon, I guess. But that's not really how I want to have the mindset for, you know, a good opponent.
Right.
You can't do that.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
You got to prepare.
Yeah. And during all of that time, you know, we talked before, but you know, and you mentioned doing real estate in while you were in the UFC, but you had a pretty good run with that, and of course, you know, you did it in California too. That was paying the bills aside from your show money and win money?
So what happened? You know, and again, when you're younger, you know, it's more of you're kind of dictated by your goals. And you know, I'm driving across the country in an 88 kind of station wagon with my bag.
Yeah.
You know, with trash bags of clothes in the back. You know, I'm not really consciously knowing what I'm doing. I'm just young and like, let's go do this. This is my goal. I want to be the best in the world. That's kind of what happened to me in MMA is, you know, my goal was always to become champion,
For sure.
to be the best in the world. It wasn't to make money. That was just a cool part of it. That was a great part of it. And but you get blinded like by your goals, you know. And
That makes sense.
And I feel like that's part of a promoter's job, is to let you be blinded and you know, use that as their like weapon to get the best deal.
Yeah.
You know, so the first part of my career was strictly do whatever it takes to be the best. And I would literally break even on like camps.
Yeah.
And, like, I'd pay whatever I had to do to get the best coaching, just to achieve my goals.
And I want to stop you right there, because I want you to continue to thought. But a lot of viewers, if they're not, maybe they're fair weather fans of MMA, but they may not understand. So when a fighter signs a contract, and he whether he wins or loses his fight, typically you get money to show up.
Yep.
And you get win money.
Yep.
And then occasionally you get a locker room bonus. It was an exciting fight of the night, or you tapped him out, or you knocked him out, whatever.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, before that fight, you incur a bunch of costs with dietitians, nutritionists, doctors, trainers, strength and conditioning,
boxing coach, jiu-jitsu coach.
Because all these people have to get paid as well.
Managers, if you have your manager, you know, and if you're getting paid, you know, I started off at like, what, maybe 8 and 8.
So 8,000 to show up,
8,000,
8,000 to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the money was just basically going out the other
And that's
door.
before taxes.
Yeah.
The government's always getting their piece. So okay, I understand. So,
you know,
and I didn't want to cut you off.
sponsorship, it was helping, but you know, at the end of the day, you're locked into a contract, and you know, it was just again, me being goal oriented and achieving the goals. You know, I wasn't doing the math.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like whatever it takes, you know. And when you do stop and do that math, you're like, holy shit, I'm not really making any money doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and not that, you know, even if I did do the math back then, you know, it would have been probably like, oh, well, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
But once you add a kid into it, you know, I had my daughter after the title fight, and like I couldn't make like ends meet.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. It was just like, it was, you start asking yourself, like, why am I doing this to them? Instead, like, I don't care about like me.
Wow.
Like, I would have done it forever, but it's like, why am I doing this to them?
It's deep. Yeah.
And that's when you start to understand, and that's when I kind of dove back into real estate and kind of remodeled a couple houses, and just you know, because I had to.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to juggle working on a house while I'm trying to train for, you know, Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
and it was it definitely put it into you know, I felt like I was egotistical. I was, because a lot of sports stuff, you know, you do have to be selfish.
Sure.
You do have to be egotistical.
Yeah.
You do have to, you know, put a lot of stuff on the back burner. You know, but in a pro sport, a lot of times you're compensated enough to that kind of everybody understands that around it. Yeah, that kind of people, you know, understand that. Like, okay, he's getting what he needs to get, at least. We're taken care of. But when, you know, then this was right after, you know, my title fight.
Yeah.
I wasn't making anything.
Wow.
I walked into the title fight at 26-26, gave him the best fight of the year,
Yeah.
and still got hammered on a 42-42 contract to up my contract.
Yeah.
But there was nowhere else to go.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
You know.
Are you still flipping houses? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the process of selling a house right now.
Nice.
You know, we're actually So me, my wife, and my 2 kids, we're gonna move into an RV and
No kidding.
travel the country.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Listen, some people may think you're crazy, but I think that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, I really want my kids to kind of understand, like, meeting new people,
Yeah.
seeing the world, like adventure,
It's
man.
huge.
That's a part of life, you know, and that's really that's really, for me, was taking those leaps.
Yeah.
That's what makes you feel alive, and
Yeah.
that's what makes you feel, you know, like you're living life.
Yeah.
You know, and like I want my kids to, you know, I want to be all over the country, checking out the
Absolutely.
country, do some backpacking trips to where a kid can climb a mountain and
Awesome.
and just like feel accomplished and to live a little bit to where we don't have everything and it's cramped up and we have each other and so
They'll never forget it. They will never forget it in a good way.
Yeah, and that's what really like tipped the scales.
Yeah.
You know, watching my dad die, he had COPD.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was
I have a
helping
family member
him
dealing
out.
with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was helping him out for, you know, a good part of the last like 6 months, to where he, you know, he couldn't move.
Yeah.
And you know, just watching him look out. You know, there was a lot of times we spent together, and it was just like watching his eyes. I was like, "What is he going through right now? He, you know, death is on the doorstep." You know, and it kind of made me feel like it's not really about money. It can't be about money. Like looking into his eyes, you know, it just, you know, there was regrets and looking back on it, you know, I was there. My sister was there. He probably regretted not spending more time with us. You know, that's a conclusion I came to, and that's when, you know, and I've always felt like family
Right.
is important, but you know, like, why don't I help them, like, to understand and. To go out and to try something new.
I love this.
To do something a little bit crazy just because, you know, like I'm sitting here telling my daughter, like, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Well, I want, you know, experiences with my kids. I want, like, I want them to know, to look back on their life, like, dude, my dad swung at some balls. So,
I've heard it said too, bro, that travel is the cure for ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, and it's true. The more people that you know, we live in the West. You go to the East, you go to the South. You maybe drive up into Canada. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, you eventually someday they'll get a chance to go across oceans.
Yeah.
And the more people that you meet and the more cultures that you experience, you realize that in America we live in such a great country and it's so big.
Yeah.
And we have so many resources. You go to some of these other places that are, you know, countries smaller than some of our states.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that is so different. And you get to experience this, and it puts things in a much different perspective for you. So the fact they could do that at a young age, man, that's amazing.
You know, I just, it was important for, to give them that, right? To give them what I had, but better. Right.
Yeah.
And a little bit more. You know, like more give them more than just stuff. Like, here's Barbies, or here's more toys.
Yeah.
You know, I want memories, man.
Yeah.
I want
Experience.
experiences.
It's beautiful.
And you know, that really kicked me in my butt, just watching my dad go through that, and you know, when those eyes close for that last time, you know, you really have a lot that's going to be going through your head, and you know, I weighed out those kind of options, like, how am I ever going to regret this? You know, like being cooped up with my kids, and you know, like backpacking, and just living life.
Yeah,
you
I don't
know?
see a lot of downside for that, bro. I don't.
You know, of course, we're gonna have to hustle to make money, and you know, doing camps and clinics, but that's what I love anyways. You know, I love passing it on to other kids. You know, passing the sports on, but you know, in the meantime, we can have a good time.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because in the past you were pretty critical of fighter pay.
Yeah.
And things like that. First of all, how do you feel about that now? Do you think it's getting better? And also, do things like pay-per-view points kind of change the model a little bit? What are your thoughts on some of that?
So, from what I understand, the Ali Act happened in boxing. And when the Ali Act happened in boxing, that gave a lot of boxers the opportunity to not be confined to one contract. Every contract, it was a new contract, and they really gave them a lot more of the leverage. And the only reason that the UFC is paying more is because, you know, they're making more, and we're not covered by the Ali Act. We keep trying to get it passed to cover us, you know, to have the Ali Act cover MMA. It covers boxing, but it doesn't cover MMA. And you know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, I'll corner, and they're breaking even after what they spent on camp. I mean, once you get to the top, okay, yeah, you're not breaking even, but you take taxes, you take putting into a retirement, you take like putting into real estate, a little bit into stocks, you know, just trying to be smart.
Yeah.
That stuff adds up.
Sure.
You know, and you don't have a lot of money to live off of. You know, and that's kind of what was happening to me, is I was putting stuff away, but then I was cash poor, you know, because there wasn't enough to do it with. And, you know, and I understand with MMA and promoters, and especially the UFC, is why do they have to do it? You know, why do they have to pay more? They don't.
Yeah.
Because there's no laws protecting us. There's no laws protecting us, like, monetarily. There's no laws protecting us contractually. Why would they give more money? You know?
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen. That's just human nature.
Sure.
It's like, if I don't have to do it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. And a business has a margin that they choose to operate on, and so I get it.
And there's a lot of money. It just hit me, you know, once the sale happened, like, how much money was just being passed around at the top. You know, and I'm watching guys and girls in here, you know, that are blinded by their dreams, and you know, they're trying to make it happen, and with no protection. But again, they're blinded. You know, and if I can stick up for them and speak, you know, to help them out, I'm all for it. You know? So especially now that I'm not with them anymore. Because that's always a scary thing, is, you know, speaking up against your boss.
For sure.
Know? And they're not our boss. We're independent contractors. You know.
And truth be told, I don't think, you know, I know I've been fortunate to get to know a lot of fighters, and, you know, I know a lot of people who work at that organization as well. I don't think that there's a hatred. It's
Yeah.
not like we're the UFC and we hate these guys. Let's extract
Yeah.
as much from them as we can.
Yeah.
It's a business. And
It's a
I think
business.
a lot of times business just sometimes may not seem fair, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I'm not blaming anybody. I certainly
Yeah.
don't have the ability or the right to. I haven't been involved in either.
Yeah.
Never been a fighter, never worked at the UFC.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, at some point, you know, when you see, I worry about fighters on the backside of their career.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about a guy like you because, one, you're a hustler. Two, you know how to make money without having to go and work
Yeah.
for somebody. But there are some people who aren't going to be as fortunate, and
Yeah.
I think those are the people
Yeah.
that, in some way, you know,
Yeah.
kind of need to be looked out for.
Yeah, you know, I really feel like financially, there's going to be a lot of repercussions, but most importantly, health.
Sure.
I think there's going to be a lot of repercussions with guys who competed, and money. You know, I mean, we can make money, we can do whatever, but once your health goes, there's no wealth.
That's it, yeah.
You know, there's no money to be made. Once
Right.
your health is done, you know, and that's kind of where me and my wife, you know, my wife, she went to master's school, and she's a functional nutritionist and kind of like a holistic doctor.
Nice.
And, you know, we really started to understand how important, you know, health is.
Yeah.
And you know, I know a couple people that have been really dealing with brain issues, and we're gonna see a lot more of that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's the scary part.
Agreed.
Is it's not that they don't make money; they can't make money.
Yeah.
Because they're dealing with all this.
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know, and you know, and I'm not saying the UFC is bad and whatever, but they're concentrating on money, and all the athletes are numbers.
Yeah.
You know, once you put them as numbers, then you start taking away,
I see.
you know, empathy and compassion and humans that are going through this and that are bleeding and that are causing irreversible harm to their body, you know, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping, you know, and I'm not expecting people to do the right thing, right? I mean, they're making money. There's a lot of people involved that want their money back. There's actors and actresses who put in money, you know, and they're making dividends. They want their money, you know, and that's important, I guess. But you know, at the end of the day, we got a lot of humans here that are you know, struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And making you money.
Yeah.
Lots of money.
Lots of money. A lot of money. You recently left the UFC.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of people telling you, come on, resign? You're crazy, Gray. Like, don't interrupt the money train.
No, so we kind of had an agreement. They locked me into an 8-fight contract when one of my contracts was up. This was a little bit after my the title fight, and what they do is towards the end of your career is they try to lock you up in a long contract. If you look at Anderson, if you look at, you know, Connor, is they lock them, you know, in a long contract because good chances you're not going to get through with that contract. And at the time, they just bought out Strikeforce. Bellator was still on the, but there was nowhere else to go. You know, I did the 8-fight contract. You know, I thought I was going to get it done a lot quicker, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So about halfway through, maybe 5 fights in, you know, the Nick Lentz.
Yep.
You know, and like Dana he kept asking me to retire. You know, please retire. And what happens though is if you're in contract and you retire, you stay under contract. If you ever come back,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
So
And it makes sense.
that's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense why he wants you
Yeah, for sure.
to
Yeah.
do a long contract.
Right, yeah.
Because if you do retire in contract, that means you can't go anywhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
So, you know, I just
You said release me,
grunted
right?
it out. I grunted it out, and then after the Nick Lentz fight happened, you know, Dana called me and he's like, "Hey, I want you to retire," and we just kind of came to this like, you know, I was like, I don't want to retire, you know, and it's like, well, you know, you can't do this, and can't do this anymore, or whatever, you know, and I was just like, well, just give me a release then, you know, and gave me the release, and my wife was in master's school still, so we still had a infant, and it was just crazy, and we really had to work as a team to get through it, because masters, I mean, that's a lot of
Demanding.
work.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot
very
of demanding.
demanding.
We had a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old, an infant, and her in master's school, so you know, I had to hustle.
Busy, yeah.
Yeah, we had to hustle, and you know, again, tough times don't last.
Tough people do, right?
So we got through it, and then my wife will be taking her board exams in December.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that, and you know, and then we're gonna take off.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so it was a blessing as far as you can stop depending on the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
And not that, you know, a lot of us when we're in contracts with them, we count on stuff, right? We count on we count on the check, we count on the competition, you know, that we're concentrating on getting better to put the best Gray Maynard out there. And then once that was done, it was a little different of like for a couple months, like, man, this is weird. I've never not been with them.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was relieving because I stopped depending on them and I started concentrating on me.
Yeah.
You know, and
self-reliance.
Yeah. Now, you know, it's me. I'm gonna have to take care of this in a bigger picture instead of like, you know, I just got to go train.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Which is good.
You
know,
like
I like
it?
those odds. Yeah.
Yeah. I say that a lot. I like my odds. Yeah. I think there's. I liken your situation to someone who, you know, some people need to have a job.
Yeah.
Some people need to know that I'm going to go to work. In
Yeah.
2 weeks, I'm going to get my pay. I've got insurance. I got my, you know, 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. I get my 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Not knocking that at all. The whole world can't be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But there's a small subset of our population who says, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
For some reason, some people see a path.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic too. And so for you to walk away from arguably one of the biggest brands in America right now, everybody know, you say those 3 letters and everybody knows who they are, whether they watch it or not.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna bet on Gray.
Yeah.
And put my chips on that.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working, you know. And
Yeah.
I have no doubt that. I mean, you want to keep fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. You know, halfway through my career, like I knew that, you know, just get through this next contract, get through this next contract, get through this next contract. And then, you know, it just, like it was never happening.
Yeah.
But, you know, I fought an amateur fight and 2 pro fights. And then I was on the TV show.
Yeah.
So that's all I ever knew, competing wise. But I wanted to. What really got me into it was like Japan, like watching Pride,
Yeah.
and like all these crazy ones, even the UFC though, but like it was cool to watch, you know, just all of that stuff, and you know, I definitely want to experience other promotions, and you know, definitely have some competition in me still, and you just got to figure it out though.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. I think too, oftentimes, you know, taking time away from something you're really passionate about and really love is good.
Yeah.
So maybe this RV trip across America,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to provide you with perspective. You
Yeah.
get away from it, things will open up for you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that
Yeah.
happens probably more often than not.
Yeah.
Are you, you did a movie called The Art of Submission.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what was that like? And secondly, do you think you'll do any more movies?
It was a cool movie. You know, I got to work with George Takei, Ernie
Sure,
Reyes
yeah.
Jr.
That's right.
What's his name? The big guy that played in Pulp Fiction.
Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Ving
remember him
Rhames.
from that show. Yeah.
He was he was an amazing actor. But it was cool. You know, and I'm always open to it. You know, I did a TV show with a Jonas brother. You know, he beat me up.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm always open to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
You know, my buddy Jay Huron.
Sure.
You know, he was all in MMA.
Yep.
And then when he did those numbers on that last fight, and he was just like, man, put everything I had into this. You know, I've done everything I could to be the best.
Yep.
You know, to be the best. You know, who he can be. And it just wasn't. It didn't make sense. And he went all in. You know,
Yeah.
in like acting.
Yeah.
And he's killing it.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job, and you watch a person, and it's nice to watch people who are close to you do that.
Yeah.
You know, and bet on themselves, and you know, have the blinders on, and just achieve what they want to, what they had it, what their goals were. You know, and that's it's always inspiring, and
Absolutely.
You know, you gotta surround yourself with people that, you know, do inspire you. You know, because you know, there's a lot that goes to that you know, the quote, you know, if you have good people around you, whatever it is.
Yeah, I know what
you
you're talking
know,
about. I
they'll
know,
bring
I
you
know
up,
the reference. Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
it's the truth, man.
Yeah.
It really is. You know,
What,
and sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Is going to look for those people, and getting ideas off those people, and talking to those people.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
You know, I had to pack my shit up in the back of a
Subaru, right?
Subaru, yeah. And you know, to get those
Yeah.
people's. So it's a journey, which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, again, there could be a lion around every corner, but you know, there could also be a lion around every corner in your mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's just in your mind.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you got to keep going on that journey, and you just gotta, you know, take what comes.
I like it. What do you do when it's time to chill? Because you're a go guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always
Yeah.
doing. And I know that you said you struggle with chilling. I do too.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know. Maybe it'll help me.
Yeah, it's definitely outdoors.
Yeah.
You know, you know, being with the kids, sleeping. You know,
Yeah.
when I go to sleep, that's where I chill.
Nice.
You know, and not that that's what you have to do, but like, you know, I guess I really am like, you know, let's go climb that mountain. Let's go figure it out. You know.
Yeah.
So kids have kind of, you know, slowed me down a little bit to where, like, they mentally slow me down. You know,
Right.
which is good because, I can start appreciating the here and now instead of
Yeah.
being so goal oriented
Yeah.
and what's next, what goal is next. It's like these kids are gonna grow up quick, man.
Yeah.
And you just have to, you got to take in every day, and there's times that the kids are a grind, but you got to enjoy the grind,
Yeah.
right? And enjoy it.
I don't have kids, but I would argue that the grind with the kids is still easier than the grind in the octagon.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Yeah. You don't have my kids. That's why.
Got it.
I'll be in the
I'd like to meet them.
octagon
I'd like to
every
meet
day
them.
of the
I hope I
week.
get a chance.
Yeah, they're awesome. I got two different kids, and they're fun.
Yeah.
But it's helping me understand, slow it down a little bit, enjoy the moment.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the only time I think the only time my brain turns off is when I go to sleep. So
Yeah.
I can appreciate what you're
That's
saying.
how I was,
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
So, and again, just getting outdoors, like I try to do, good hikes.
Yeah.
And still try to get that push.
Yeah.
That fuck, I want to quit.
Yeah.
I want to turn around and start going downhill again.
My calves are burning.
Yeah, but and I want them to kind of understand that too. In a good way though.
Sure.
And we'll see.
What advice would you give to somebody who wants to be an MMA star? I mean, because you had it all. You were.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not with the UFC, but you
Yeah.
got a contract.
Yeah.
You were flipping houses, making good money.
Yeah.
You were famous. I mean, you were famous. I
Yeah.
mean, you were up there, man.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who sees that and only sees the glitter?
Yeah. Just know that it's a business. Just know that everybody's not on your team, and you have to keep your circle tight. Because everybody has talk, and that's kind of what happens with industries to where there isn't a lot of regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is now you're getting a lot of people who can talk good, and they're talking their way into your paycheck, and they're talking, it's all talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And got to be careful of that. And it's not just about hard work. Everybody talks about this hard work, but you also have to be mentally understanding of where you need to put the hard work. A lot of people are just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna train hard. But it's like, where do you need to get better? Analyze your game, know your style. Who do you need to look at? What tapes do you need to watch? You got to be surgical to an extent of your game, your craft, because this isn't X's and O's. This is one-on-one with it's two people going into an octagon, just like wrestling. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Football, we deal with a lot of X's and O's, and you look at the whole team and how you can move together. This is, you need to understand who you are, what you need to do, where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and it's really being able to be honest with yourself every time.
Which is difficult.
Yeah, which is difficult.
Because humans are just not.
Yeah, being honest, where you need to get better, and you need to keep organized, and hard work is just a little part of it. There are so many guys who work hard, but they don't get what they need because it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
It goes looking at your nutrition, looking at your sleep, looking at your recovery. It's just like understanding how to make yourself the best you can be in every aspect. To put yourself out there the best that you can be.
Do you ever see yourself moving into coaching?
Yeah, I play around with that idea. You know, I like it. It's just, you know, it's hard because I come up through wrestling and like college wrestling coaches, they really aren't, like they need you, right? But the school's paying them, and
Yeah.
and it's just a lot easier to concentrate like on the athletes. It's scary because MMA, you coaches look at guys as like, that's my payday. It's not a college that's
Right.
paying them, that's my payday.
Right.
And I don't ever want to make the wrong choice
For sure.
based on money with a guy or a girl, you know. That's scary, and it's so tempting. It's so tempting, and that's what I'm dealing with right now is like, you know, if I'm gonna coach a guy or a girl, you know, like I want to make sure that I'm not worried about money, right? I'm not concentrating on they're making me the money, you know, and then I'm telling them stuff to make me more money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I want you, this is yours, the money's great, but
Yeah.
like, you know, I just, it's a scary thing, man. It's a tempting thing, and it's you know, scary, and I think a lot of coaches don't really hold that to them, you know, like,
Yeah. To that standard?
yeah,
Yeah.
to that standard. And you know, I think that yeah, it's a little bit scary thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think you'd be good at it, though.
yeah.
I think you would. I do.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Great. Where can people find you at?
I'm on GrayMaynard.com, Gray Maynard, or I'm on not GrayMaynard.com, but it's at Gray Maynard. You
Okay.
know, it's Instagram, Twitter. We're gonna be coming out with, yeah, me and my wife are we're gonna be coming out with a lot of like a couple blogs and stuff as we tour the country,
Yeah.
and she really helped me with long-term health, you know, brain health, you know, a lot of stuff that we don't understand, especially guys, is like brain health really starts in your gut too, like all your biome, and you know, just long-term health, like how to still feel good even though you put your body through your hell, you know, how to recover through all of this, you know, and still be able to play with your kids,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of your career.
Yeah.
And you know, we're going to be coming out with a lot of information just to help with the athletes that do this sport, as well as kids that want to do this sport, and to create a good foundation on being healthy and taking care of their body, and because you know, all this stuff ends.
It does.
It does, and it's good. You can't do
Yeah.
it forever, which is good, but you don't want to look back and, you know, be like, why didn't I take care of my body more?
Right.
Because once that goes,
Man, I think even if you're not an athlete, you should be considering.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So
I mean-
I would like to have a conversation with you and her at some
Yeah.
point,
Love
and
to.
and you know, whatever it costs. But I'd like to
yeah,
get plugged into that because
Yeah.
I'm into longevity, man.
Yeah.
You know, I say it all the time. You get one trip around the merry-go-round, and so it should be as good as possible if
Yeah.
you can control that.
Yeah,
You know, so
of
I
course.
would love to sit down with
Yeah.
you guys and see if there's something I could,
Yeah.
you know, maybe fix
Yeah.
or finesse in my life to
yeah,
make it better.
yeah. She's a really smart woman.
Awesome.
You know, amazing, and she definitely didn't want to go in the standard route. You know, she wanted to her main goal was healing people. You know, healing people, like the root causes.
Yeah.
That's what she was always interested
Right.
in. And chronic illness is just rampant right
Yeah,
now.
agreed.
And like autoimmune diseases, and she is seeing a lot of results,
Fantastic.
with, simple lifestyle changes, nutritional changes, looking at some blood work and not prescribing.
Right.
It's more like, hey, how do we change this?
I love it.
Yeah. Long term.
Yeah. Which is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, great, man. I can't thank you enough for stopping by, man,
Yeah.
and allowing us to have this conversation. Like I said, I was a big fan. Win, lose, or draw, you always left it all in there. And, you provided me with a lot of awesome viewing opportunities. So, thank you for that. But thanks for being such a great dude. And
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this.
If there's anything I can help you with, man, you know where I'm at. But thank you so
Will
much.
do. Cool.
Guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you check out Gray on all of his social media platforms. It's important. And until we see each other next time, be good to yourself, be good to each other.